Looking for some Easter decor ideas that'll easily transition into spring? Well, stay tuned. Hi, my name is Leslie and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIY and home decor and more. Now, if you stick around to the very end, I'll have a hint on one of next week's projects. So, let's get started. And here's a quick preview of the 5 projects that we're going to be doing today. Take a quick look before we get started with project number 1. I just love when you can grab items from your craft room and turn it into a super cute DIY without having to go shopping. So I've just got some leftover burlap. I've got a leftover piece of 2x4. I've got these leftover hearts from Easter. And I am going to start by painting my little skewer heart pink, and then paint my 2x4 white, and then take some of this burlap scrap and turn it into little bunny ears. I'm just gonna kind of freehand a little bunny ear here, and then I am going to take some of this jute wrapped wire that you can find at the Dollar Tree, and because it's jute wrapped, it does have some fraying on the edges, so I'm going to run some some hot glue on those edges and put those together, and then I'm going to hot glue this wire on there. And after I got it up, I decided I wanted my ears rounded instead of pointy, so we'll trim those down, and now we'll just use some hot glue around the edge of that jute wrapped wire, and we will add that onto the ears and get that all down. And then I'm going to kind of bunch it up at the bottom and squeeze it together with some hot glue so that the bottom pieces come together, and it gives me a place to glue the ears on. And then I'm going to take some of this ballet slipper pink chalk paint by Waverly, and I am just going to lightly brush a little coat inside that ear and make it look like a bunny ear. And once I've got both ears done, I'm going to set those aside to dry, and then we will move on to the next part of this project, which is going to be trimming that skewer off of the nose and setting the nose so we can make some little eyes. Now, I first started with the ink chalk paint by Waverly to make the eyes, and I wasn't really keen on how my paint skills were working here, and so I'll go back in with a paint marker and add a little dab of white inside those eyes and make his little mouth. And then I'm going to use some of this black wire that I got from the automotive section of Dollar Tree, and if you've been watching me a little while, you'll know I use this stuff all the time for all the things. And I'm going to wrap it around my paintbrush and make some little wire whiskers. And so I'll do that to 3 of the little wires, and then I will glue those on and glue on my nose, and then we will move on to getting the ears on, and then we'll start to decorate him. So once I've got that all set where I like it, then I'm going to take this jute and just tie a little bow. And you'll notice I tie the bow at one end. I'm going to leave the rest of that jute because I'm going to wrap it around. Now, I found this a scrap Dollar Tree polka dot ribbon, and I just folded it over, and I'm going to use the other piece of scrap to go around the center and hold this bow together. So I'll fold that over couple of times so that I get the center of the bow, and then I will use a little bit of hot glue on the one end and glue that around my bow. This is a really easy way when you don't have enough scrap ribbon to tie a bow, where you can make a bow and it turns out looking super cute. So I've got that wrapped around now, and I've got my bow done. I'm going to give it some little dovetail ends and finish off the edges that way. And now we will glue on the ears on those little wire pieces I set up on the ends when we glued the ears together. And the nice thing I love about putting a little bit of wire inside these ears is that then you can form or fashion them in any direction you want. You can fold them over or scooch them back. Now we'll glue on that bow, and then we're going to add a little bit of decor onto the bottom. So I took some of this pink ribbon I had from the Dollar Tree and I cut it down so you can see this is really a scrap piece of wood. And I glued that on and then took a little bit of the scrap burlap that I had and glued that on. And then we're going to take the rest of that jute rope and we are going to wrap it around the bottom there in a couple of different rows and tie that off and then glue that together, and voila, this bunny is complete. I did go in and add a couple little pieces for cheeks underneath his wires, but I just love the way it turned out, and you could make a family of them if you'd like. That was my original plan. I never got around to it, but I just love this one. He turned out so cute. What do you think? And that will bring us to project number 2. This is such an adorable sock bunny. And if you'll remember, this was last week's clue. I got a pair of these diabetic tube socks from Dollar Tree, and we are going to fill the bottom up about halfway. I'd say I probably used about a half a cup total of rice. I didn't want to fill it all the way up with rice, but I did want to give it enough weight so that the bunny wouldn't tip over. So we're going to put some rice in the bottom there, and then we are going to add in some of that pillow fluff. And we are going to just squeeze that in there. Now you can either buy the polyfill or you can use an old pillow, whichever suits your budget and your fancy. And I have an old bag of polyfill that I've had for years and years and years. I'm just trying to use up. So I'm going to rearrange it inside the bottom there until I get it filled the way I want it and the way it looks good as a bunny bottom to me. And then I'm going to take a piece of that jute rope and we are going to tie it around the center of the bunny and give him a nice little bunny bottom shape. And then we will move on to his head part. So I'm just going to tie this around in a knot and kind of fluff it rope down until I get it nice and tight and where I want it, and then we'll move on to the bunny head. Now I did the bunny head just like the bottom. I just put a little bit of rice in there just to give it some stability and some weight to it, and then we'll fill the rest up with the polyfiber until I get it the size of the bunny head that I want. Now I'm also going to tie the top with a little piece of jute twine, but this is not going to be my forever solution to the bunny head. I just wanted to make sure that it was tight, and then I'm going to cut the ears down and then we'll remove that twine because I am going to tie the bunny ears. And I guess I didn't show tying the bunny ears on camera, but I'm first going to take, I guess it was about 6 inches of twine and cut off 4 pieces of that, and that's going to be his hair. So you can see here I've tied off the bunny ears into a knot, and now we're just going to take a skewer and we're going to put the little hair down inside the knot until it looks nice and secure, and then we're going to poke it back up around in there until it's hidden. And so there's that fine line between secure and hidden, and then we'll pull the sock back down over it and give it a little bit of hot glue so it stays in that little pouch, and then we are going to work on the ears. Now I grabbed my paper wired ribbon because I had it next to me, and I'm going to use that on the inside of the ears, and we're just going to make it kind of a ear shape sort of in there inside this tube sock, and then we're going to fold it all over and kind of wrap that wire up inside there so that you can't see the edges or the wire. And that way our bunny ear can move in there and we can form and shape it any direction we want. And then I'm going to take a little piece of that, a little paintbrush, and paint a little bit of the ballet slipper chalk paint inside those ears and give them a little bunny ear look to them. And then we'll also take a little bit of that pink color in a minute and put on some cheeks. But I'm first going to take my orange paint marker and we are going to make him a little orange nose and draw a little triangle for that. And then we will get out the brown paint marker and we are going to draw an outline around his nose, and we will also give the nose just a little bit of shading. That orange was just a little bit too bright for me. So we'll use my little ink pad from Hobby Lobby and a little paintbrush and just give it a teeny bit of shading. Once we've gotten that done, then we'll take that brown paint marker and give him a little bit of a mouth and a little bit of a line down from his nose and give him some character there. And then before I draw his little eyeballs on, we're going to grab some of that pink paint by Waverly and just give him a little brush over for some cheeks. That way we kind of have a better idea where that face is going to go. And then we'll take that paint marker and make him some little black eyeballs, and take the brown one and give him a couple of little eyebrows, and this part of the bunny will be complete. After we finish all that up, then we just need to give him a bow. So first I'm going to start with a little messy bow, a couple little pieces there wrapped up in twine, and we'll put that in her hair. I've been calling him a him, but he's a her. And we're going to trim off a few of those pieces into little dovetails and just trim the edges a little bit and give her bow a little fixing up there so that it doesn't come apart on her. And then we will get that glued underneath her hair. And then we're going to work on a bow for her body. Now you can see over to the right there, I tied a little bow that I didn't end up liking, and so I'm going to grab a different scrap that I had left over from Christmas, and I'm going to tie a bow kind of like a scarf around her neck and give the edges a little bit of trimming. And then if you can see those little wire pieces up at the top, we are going to use those as little whiskers here in just a second. So we're going to get the bow just the way we want it and trim off the edges into some dovetails, and then we will work on those whiskers. Now, to give her as much character as I possibly can, I'm just taking those little wire pieces and I am bending them up and crinkling them, and then we'll just give them a little dab of hot glue and put them there on her face. And this bunny will be complete. Isn't she just adorable? And I just think she'll make the perfect little addition to my bookshelf this spring. What do you think? If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a listing. Give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends today. And that will bring us to project number 3. I just think these little air clay bunnies are adorable, and I found a picture of them on Pinterest, and I knew I just had to make them. I only ended up making the mama and the baby, but here we go. So I've got the last of my little air clay. Now this was a container I bought from Walmart. I believe it ran me about $5. But you can find it at any craft store or buy it on Amazon. And air clay, wow, it takes about 72 hours to dry. But if you let it sit more than an hour, it's starting to get a little crusty and it's not really as malleable at that point. So I first made kind of a little cone shape for the head and body. And then we're going to make a little heart nose. Now, I played around with this for quite some while before I decided it was the right size to go on the baby's face, because I started with the baby. And so you'll just see me kind of mess around with it. Fingernails, as it turns out, are a very good tool when you're working with air clay. It allowed me to help smooth out some areas and push in some areas. And as it turns out, Cricut tools are kind of useful for this process too. So I used my little Cricut weeder and made some eyeballs and a little mouth and some whiskers. And now we're going to work on the ears. Now I found the best way to do the ears was to kind of make a little snake and fold it over and form it into an ear shape, and then use my finger to make it a divot in the center. And once I get them formed, then I will put them together and we'll see what kind of size they need to be for the top of the bunny and make them appropriate, proportionate, that's the word, proportionate to the bunny's head. And there I am again using that fingernail to kind of smooth down the areas and recheck his face. And here is the little baby. Isn't he so cute? And now we'll move on to the mama. And I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to make a little cone shape for the body and the head, just a little bit bigger than the baby. And we'll roll out some little snake ear sizes and get those put together. And once we've gotten both ears on there, then we will make sure they measure out the same, and we'll get them on the top of the head. And the second bunny went much quicker than the first one because I'd kind of figured out how this needed to go. And so here we are smoothing in the bunny ears, and then you can kind of shape them whatever shape you want. And now we'll work on the mama's face. And so I'm going to take the last little bit of scrap in there, and I will make a little heart shape for the bunny nose, and we'll put that on her face and put on some eyeballs and a little bit different mouth this time, and this bunny will be complete too. I just think they'll be the perfect addition to my tiered tray or any shelf sitter, and I think they turned out adorable. What do you think? Before I started this channel, I'd never worked with air clay, and you've seen several projects now, but I think the bunnies turned out so cute, and that will bring us on to project number 4. So I have been watching Pinterest and seeing lots and lots of knitted wire wrapped things, and so I thought I'd take my hand and give it a try. You'll notice I have 2 different kinds, and I'll use them both in this project. But the first one is braided yarn. It's a 4mm, and I got it at Hobby Lobby. It was about $5 for that container. And then I have 0.8mm wire. Now, pushing this wire inside this, you have to kind of feel where the hole is inside of this knitted yarn, and just kind of shove that wire up inside that little tunnel. I guess it's a tunnel. And once you've gotten all the wire wrapped up in that tunnel, you'll see the end come out, and we are going to take some hot glue just like we did with that jute wrapped wire, and we're going to hot glue the edge. Now I was just pushing and shoving until I got a whole big knot you see there in the middle. It's not a knot, but it's all bundled up, bunched up right there in the middle, and I'm going to run it all the way down the rest of the way on the wire. Now that bobini, that is a 5mm, and I'll show you something different about it. Knitted yarn, and it came from Amazon, and I'll have that linked below. If you're going to do a lot of these, that would be a great investment. If you're not going to do but one, then you probably want to find a cheaper investment. But So I've gotten the edge all curled down, and now we are going to take the wire and wrap it around and make it say the word spring. Now, a lot of the wire wrapped tutorials that I've seen, yarn wrapped wire tutorials that I've seen, they actually have a thicker wire, I believe, and they make words, but they use like little word templates. I wasn't so sophisticated to put together a template. I thought I would freehand it, and so I'm trying to remember my cursive days from elementary school and wrap this around and give it the definition of the cursive word spring. So once I get all that put together, I do add a couple of dabs of hot glue just to keep things from separating too much. Like you'll see that little piece underneath the S, it doesn't want to stay put. But so I just put it in put a little dab of hot glue, but I'm going to go ahead and finish writing out this word of spring, and then when I get to the G, then I will wrap the wire again around this beaded wreath that I bought at the Dollar Tree. So you should be able to find those. They have them all year round. Those aren't just a spring thing. And I'll wrap that G around and give it that cursive G formation. Here I'm going to stick that wire up inside of the top of the G so it holds in there real well, and bring the G around, and then I will take the loop part of the G and I'll wrap it around that beaded wreath so that it holds in there. You'll see that in just a second. And then we will finish off the top same as we did the beginning with a bead of hot glue, and making sure that knitted tube fits over top of the wire, and close that off. And here we are, we're going to take that G and wrap it around the bead, and then we're going to wrap it around again near the bottom, just to kind of give it a little bit more stability. The 8mm wire, or I guess it's 0.8mm wire, isn't as stable as some of the other firm wires, but for a 4mm little tube on this braided yarn, it was the perfect size. Now this bobbini is actually a 5mm, and so I'm just going to cut off a little measure, but as you'll see on the inside, or you can't really see right there, but I'm going to take out, I don't know, 6 pieces or so of that inside thread loop, and that will give me my little tunnel that I need to put the wire in. And this 5mm braided yarn was much easier to put that wire in than the 4mm was. So if you want to do a lot of the words, then the 5mm might be the size to go, and that 0.8mm wire worked just perfect to go in there. Again, we're going to clear off the edges, or clean off the edges, and get those ready, and then I am going to bring the other side out before I start fashioning our little flower out of this. Now, there's also all kinds of little knitters, and I bought one to make bigger words and more sturdier words, but I haven't used it yet, so maybe we'll do that in a week or two, because I want to make my granddaughters' names. You can buy them on Etsy, but they seemed a little pricey if I can make it myself, and then I can make all my grandkids' names, and I can do more things with the knitted, braided, wrapped wire, however you want to say it. Anyway, so I got my flower all fashioned, and I'm going to put a little bead of hot glue in there to hold the center of the flower together, and then we'll use that leftover piece to wrap it around the top of the beaded wreath. And then we will grab that piece of rope I have over to the side. It's not rope, it's more of this fabric, And we are going to bring that around and tie it into a knot, and that will be our hanger for this wreath. And once I got to this point, I decided it needed a little bit more embellishment, so I pulled this dogwood flower that I had in my scraps and this little daisy center that I will use as the center of my flower, and we'll hot glue all those on there. And after I finished that, I thought it still needed a little bit extra, and so I went into my craft supplies and found a couple of wooden rabbits and a wooden little chick that I had left over from last year's Easter stuff from Dollar Tree, and I painted those pink and yellow and glued them on, and here we are. I just think this is so stinking adorable. Couldn't be any cuter, and it's perfect on one of my inside doors in my house. I just think it's so cute. And that will bring us to our final project today, project number 5, and we're bringing out some more macrame. So you'll notice that this macrame cord is actually wrapped, which is the difference between this cord and that bobbini cord, which is also supposedly used for macrame, but it is knitted. And so it doesn't fray as easily, and I need this to fray so we can make the bunny ears. So we're first going to start by taking the macrame cord and we're going to tie a knot, and then we are going to do what's called a half hitch stitch. So we're going to take the yarn and put it over the hoop, and then we are going to take the yarn and pull it underneath the hoop, and I'll show you a better picture here in a minute when we get closer to the end. That's half of the stitch. The other half of the stitch, we are going to take that cord and put it under the hoop and then put it over and through, and then we'll pull that stitch tight, and you'll see that's the whole stitch. And we're going to go over and under and pull the stitch, and that's half the stitch, then under and over and half the stitch, and that will make the whole stitch. And you'll see that the stitch forms a little line at the top, and so if you have to stop for any reason and you can't remember whether you're over or under, look at whether the stitch is complete or not. If it's not complete, then you need to do the under part. If it is complete, then you'll start over. So here we are. We'll do this again, and we're going to go over the hoop, and then we will go under the hoop and through the hole, and then we will pull that tight. And you want to keep pushing it so that it's tight on the ring. And that one went under and then over, and then you'll pull it tight, and then you'll push it so that it's tight on the ring, because you want the ring to be completely covered. So over the hoop and through the hole, and that'll make the first half of the stitch. And then you'll go under the hoop and over and through the hole, and that will make the second part of the stitch. And there we are, all complete. We're going to take this, and this will be used as our hanger, and cut that off. Now we're going to make the bunny ears. I took some of that floral wire. It's a little bit stiffer than the black wire that we used in the automotive, and I cut some of these sections are about 3 inches of that material. And we're going to take and make a little loop, and the loop is going to sit on the top, and then we'll pull the other 2 ends through, and we'll pull that tight, and we're going to do that all the way around. Now the reason why we want to do that is so that you can't see on the top any of the wire. And then this is why it's important to use the twisted macrame cord instead of the braided macrame cord, because we want to fray all these pieces, and we're going to take them all apart and fray out the whole set of bunny ears. And then we are going to trim it all off and make sure that our bunny ears are the shape we want and all trimmed up. We're going to do that to both. And then we will take our ears and we are going to put them through the macrame stitch, and in between kind of a row, And then we're going to wrap them up and tuck them in so that they're mostly hidden. And you'll see I do that here in a second. So we're going to pull that cord through and make sure that all our bunny ear pieces are headed in the same direction. And then we're going to pull the other piece through, same as we did. Now I did 4 stitches from the middle and the other 12 stitches from the first wire. So we'll trim that off so we have a nice clean edge, and we are going to push that through the loop, and then we are going to take our pliers, and that wire is just a little bit too big, so we're going to trim that off, and then we're going to use our pliers and push it inside that little loop that you see at the top. And then we're going to use our pliers to kind of wrap that around and make it good and secure. And we're going to do that to all 4 pieces. And once we've got all 4 pieces done, you could still see just a tiny bit of that wire left. And so I'm going to take just a little piece of that macrame cord, and I am going to fray it and just use a couple of those little pieces and glue them on with some hot glue and just cover up that little wire piece, and that way it looks all finished from both sides, and this is ready to give away. And that's all there is to this project. Aren't these bunny ears so cute and adorable? And I think I've said that this whole video, but I just think all these bunny things are so perfect to transition from Easter back into spring. Which one was your favorite? Comment below and let me know. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really do enjoy our time together. Now, since you stuck around to the very end, I'm going to give you a hint on one of the things that we're going to be doing next week. You will need either a floral hoop or embroidery hoop, or you might be able to make one of these brass wreath rings from the Dollar Tree work. You're also going to need just some scrap felt pieces, flower kind of colors, and you will need some 20mm beads, probably about 10 or 12. But until then, make it a great day and happy Tuesday!